Good evening, YouTube. I've got a very special guest and friend with me, Alec Mead, and I'll give a brief introduction. So, Alec is a proud father and successful real estate investor. He does not have a failed real estate business like I do, but it's all good because I'm turning that around.
It could happen any day. You never know.
You know what? I've cried. I might as well laugh. I've done enough crying, man. I've been depressed.
You're not the only one crying. The interest rates, I heard a story, somebody had 40 flips that they can't sell. 40.
That guy's crying too.
Yeah.
He's crying too, man. And so you know what? Crying's over, depression's over. Let's go, right? Let's rebuild. Let's make it happen. So, Alec, this is awesome, man. So, proud father, successful real estate investor, professional musician. I want to know more about that. He has massive goals for business and for impact. And I think that's why we align, right? We want massive impact. Like, this is legacy stuff right here. Like, I want my kids when they're 30, 40, 50 to be watching these videos. Like, I want these videos all over the world, man.
I think they will. You know, they say that like mistakes are a part of failure, and you're jokingly referring to the chapter of your life you're in now where you're like, I just made my real estate isn't great right now or whatever. And it's like, that was quite momentous from what I gathered from it. And I want to hear more about that. But like, if that's a failure, I can't wait to see what the success is, right? I've had some big failures myself. And I'm lucky right now, I'd say, that I'm in a more successful chapter of my life. And that has a lot to do with the type of real estate that we're in, right? We're in multifamilies. We talked about flips. I'm doing a flip. The multifamily acquisition versus the flip, it's not even the same world. It's like totally different industries almost, right?
That's right. That's right, man. So, yeah, continue.
I was going to say, bringing it to the music, right? I played music professionally for 10 years. I ran all my own shows. I wrote all the music. I owned all the instruments, at the beginning at least. And I was working with people that had talent, but they didn't have the drive. And they didn't have the vision. And they didn't have the grit to go in and every day, sometimes 2-3 shows a day, unpaid, playing the same songs for years. And I didn't know what the word entrepreneur was. All I knew was that I wanted to change the world. And the thing that changed my world the most was the Beatles. So essentially, like, I'm going to be John Lennon. What did he do? I went to sociology university just like him. I dropped out, right? He didn't. All these things. And, you talk about my goals or whatever. Like, I think of myself as a change agent in history, and I have like 100 years, probably more, but 100 years of time to affect the universe and stamp history on the human race, right? So you're thinking, oh, you have big goals, but like compared to other civilizations that might have lived on this planet, like, look at the pyramids, right? Yeah. My goals are small. Just because I want to build a city and be a trillionaire, those are small goals compared to, the human race. And I don't think people know about that stuff. They're too busy, right? People are too busy all the time with their dopamine right through the screen, right into their eyes. You know what I'm saying?
I do. It's distracting, right? People don't set goals. They don't accomplish much. If you're not careful, weeks turn into months, turn into years, and nothing got done, and you have nothing to show for yourself.
I like to think about that. I want to challenge that idea because there's these two men. One of them brings a bucket of water to the town every day, and the other one sits on his ass for 10 years and then decides that he's going to build a pipeline. And then after 10 years, he builds like a water main so that the water just constantly goes to the town. Nobody has to do buckets of water again, right? Questions. Who's more valuable between the two men? The guy that did buckets every day for 10 years or the guy that did nothing for 10 years, but then provided the town with unlimited water? And at which point are they not valuable? Is the guy who's about to invent the pipeline the day before he invents it, is he worthless? Or was that 9.999 years that he's been just waiting for his moment where you get that one idea, that one moment where you go from my whole life was like this, one moment, one decision, boom. Right?
Well, so there's a lot to unpack. So first answer, they're equally valuable.
Because what does it matter? If people are drinking water or not, it doesn't even matter, bro.
I love that, man. But also, it's interesting because one of my big regrets is I feel like I wasted my 20s. I wasted my teenage years, wasted my 20s. But did it have to happen for me to be here today to be on this podcast with you?
Yeah, and like we've had a few conversations before this, and I was able to pretty much ascertain, like, oh, this guy's a big thinker, right?
Me?
There's not a lot of people I know. I got 5,000 people on Facebook. Not everyone I know is posting pages of books that they're reading. That's how I know you're actually reading the books.
I promise I'm reading it.
I buy books all the time that I don't read, but I do read quite frequently, right? And when I'm reading, I can't help myself but to post a picture of the book because I think, wow, this information is so amazing. People need to know this.
Absolutely.
So I'm having this issue in my life right now where people are asking me to be a coach. So I'm now building a coaching program, and I'm building like this momentum, and I'm starting to talk to people, and they're asking me, well, is it about real estate? And the answer is no, it's not about real estate, right? Because like I needed help before I decided to get into real estate.
Got it.
Right? It was somebody who was advanced who said, oh, look, I did all this stuff in my life. Real estate was a pivotal moment, was a pivotal device or mechanism or medium for me to up my life and have access to more power, influence, and resources, right?
I love that. So what is it about?
What is real estate about?
No, you're coaching.
Oh, my coaching, well, it's just, I guess it would be whatever the people need. So normally, like when you're building a product or a service, you have an idea and you build it and then you bring it to market. But the process we're going through is we're going to talk with the market, right? We're going to talk with people and see who's interested and then see what they need and then just give that to them. Okay. Assuming that, like, if they're coming to me, then hopefully I can help them. My biggest aversion to coaching was that I got successful through suffering, through trauma, right? So, like, I was raised in a particular way where I was very independent. I had great support systems, right? We can get into all kinds of stories and stuff, but the point I'm trying to make is I was raised in a way where the harder my life got, the more it created desire, and the more it changed me and led me to want to change, to become who I am. So my way that I would coach people is to induce suffering that they're putting off for themselves because they don't want to face the lesson. We're here to learn lessons. You chose to be incarnated here on purpose for a reason, and people are running away from the lessons all day long, right? With it's so easy to live a comfortable, distracted life.
The victim mindsets, like I think extreme ownership in your life, right, is so important. And like, that's why I'm here, man. Extreme ownership. I want to make a difference. I want to make the most of every opportunity. I believe you do too.
Yeah, and I'm not as brave as you are, where I still keep some of my cards close to my chest, right? I'm a 30-year-old man on a farm, having my second kid, running, a dozen businesses or whatever. I'll tell you that. But like, I'm not going to tell the whole world the challenges that I'm going through. God forbid they knew what I'm going through. I need them to think I have shit under control. But that's the joke, right? You talk to these billionaires, they don't feel like they have their shit under control. Nobody does.
No. And we're all the same. We all got problems. And you know what? I had the hardest friggin' year of my life, man. Like 2022, by far the hardest. And I got no secrets, man. If my disastrous year full of tragedy can inspire one person to take action or change their mindset, then it's all worth it, man. I got nothing about it. Tell me.
Good. I love that. I agree. What was the pivotal moment where you realized things were the turning point?
Like for the bad or for the good?
Both. One then the other, right?
Okay. So personal or like business, obviously.
Well, so yeah, I mean, if you can keep that compartmentalized, good for you.
So business, when the market started turning and we're like, crap, our properties are dropping in value. And not only are our properties dropping in value, at the same time, me and my wife took this massive leap and bought this massive house at the very top of the market to move into. That, wow, I can't make a single mortgage payment now. So personal house, I'm in it now. Tonight, it's an Airbnb because I actually can't afford to live here at the moment. We locked up in March, closed in May. We closed Friday the 13th in May. I remember because we were in Port Dover for Friday the 13th. And, we still had business. Business was still operating, but we knew times were going to be getting challenging because of the market. And we thought we could pull through it. People talk about it's a blip, all that stuff, right? Well, holy crap. June 1st, not June, early June comes and we're analyzing our business. We're like, we got to cut all expenses, all expenses. So we cut all of our salaries. We cut absolutely everything. And so business standpoint, is my business going to survive? What do we have to do for it to survive? Can me and my business partner at the time stay on the same page and pull it together? And then on the other side, I moved into this house June 4th. I'm like, I can't make a single mortgage payment. So it's like the worlds are colliding. And it's like everything's unraveling. It's like I can't make a car payment. I can't make a house payment. I have no income. How on earth are we going to survive? And so it was June when everything happened. And it was like in May, I found out my dad had stage 4 terminal cancer, right? It's just like, wow, like, holy crap, And
then all that led to your decision that you made relatively recently to start kind of talking about your story and kind of like sharing the experience, which I think, by the way, was a good move.
I think it was too. I want people to know that I'm not running and hiding. Like I'm here to rebuild. I'm here to make things right with our investors. Like I'm doing it, right? And I'm here to rebuild myself. And it's going to look totally different, right? It's going to look totally different. And I know God is going to restore us and it's going to look totally different. And success, whatever success looks like, is going to be much greater than it ever was.
So how important, I have so many things I want to dive into, and then I don't mean to cut you off or whatever, right?
Oh, good, man.
But I grew up in a Christian town where there was more churches than restaurants. Okay. More churches than schools. And I was a rebel, skateboarding, punk rock, smoking dope. You know what I mean? And all these people in the town, like, were all Bible thumpers. And I remember dating this girl, and her mom said, are you a Christian? And I said, well, I'm a man of faith. right? Because I was studying world religion at the time, and my mom was a mathematician. There's a lot of science in my life, So I said, "Oh, I'm a man of faith," She said, "Well, why don't you just make the right choice?" And I was like, "Oh, that's weird." And then she showed me the book, The Secret, and she
Okay.
held the book, the Bible, and she said, "These are the same book, right?" And I said, "Why is it that you're so adamant that Christianity is the path, right? Because I'm in the near Ottawa, right? This is all Irish, Scottish, German, Anglo-Saxon people here. So there's tons of Christianity here, tons, right? Like the roots are Christian. Now the people, everything's lopsided, the world's changing, whatever, but the roots are Christian. And I found through personal experience that my faith got stronger, and my language and uh my the concreteness of the concepts, right? So there's a question here, which is, how important did your faith become? And then I just wanted to add my perspective that, like, for me, faith is the number one thing. I stopped thinking that I pray and meditate. I stopped thinking about it. Someone was talking about meditating the other day. I'm like, what, you don't meditate? Like, I do that shit at 2 hours a day. I have to pray in the morning, or else what? Can't have a good day. Or I'm
So,
not going to have a good day, right?
so two things. If it wasn't for my family, being my wife and my children, or my faith, I might have killed myself this summer.
Right.
So that's how important my faith is. And that's how important my family is. I'm a different person now than I was in April. And God revealed himself to me through my suffering and my pain, and through one impossible situation after another. I've seen God work, and no one can take that away from me.
Yeah, your life happens for you, and you chose this, right? So the lesson, I just want to say this because, like, I'm terrified of being vulnerable in the way that you're being, and please continue to be this vulnerable. I'm terrified of it because I have this fear. Like, I think that other people don't have problems.
Right.
I actually tell myself, but then what happens is you have these conversations with these, monks, billionaires, priests, leaders of industry, all these different people, and realize, like, everybody's facing their next challenge.
That's right. And it all looks different. We all have problems, and it all looks different. Now, one reason why I'm so willing to be vulnerable is because I've lost everything, including my dignity. Like, I've been humbled and humiliated. Like, I've lost everything. And, like, who cares anymore? Like, I've got nothing left to lose. So let's try to inspire people through vulnerability. And I think people crave vulnerability because it doesn't exist, because everyone wants to be fake. And so if me being vulnerable changes someone's life, let's go. And so that's what I want to do. And like you were talking about how immense suffering, like how you want to coach people, immense suffering. Like, through the hardest year of my life, I'm starting to come through the dip, coming back up, right? It's like, I don't think I would have changed anything. Yes, I owe more money than I've ever made in my life, and I have no idea how I'm going to pay it back. Yes, I've never been more depressed or anxious, or like, I didn't sleep this summer. I didn't sleep. We were living in this beautiful house from June, and then we moved out the end of July. We moved into my in-laws' house.
Didn't even enjoy it.
We didn't enjoy a single night. If I could have got rid of this house, we would have got rid of everything in a heartbeat, just to have peace. Like people don't talk about, I would have given everything just to have a peaceful night's sleep, right? I hated this house. This house is 5,000 square feet, has an in-law suite, a pool, a hot tub, all that crap. I would have given it all back just to have one night, good night's sleep. So we were in almost 2 months, no sleep, complete agony. I might as well have been sleeping on nails or shards of glass. Like, it was brutal. But even this house, like, people know I own this house, like the business bankruptcy and personal bankruptcy. Wow, how do I still own a house? Well, now the house is worth less than the mortgage. So it's like, I got nothing left to lose. Let's try to keep the house so I actually can have a place to live. And so it's an Airbnb. And the reason I'm here tonight is because the guests left and I have guests coming tomorrow. And honestly, God's been good. I wouldn't change any of it because I know the person that I need to be to impact millions of people is not the person I was, and I'm still growing to be that person. So if that means I got to go through all the suffering, all this pain to impact, let's go.
Yeah, and I think like when you have conversations like this, right? We're going to be able to mirror for each other. Like, oh, this is my experience that I had and these emotions and this suffering and these stories. And you can start to kind of open up and unpack it and revisit it. And then the ways that you present it throughout time can connect with different people, right? And like I'm inspired, right? And I have such a large network of people that I impact. So
Right.
I've always did this thing where I always wanted to be, I used to say I want to be a priest's priest, right? Which means I want to put God in people's hearts that are putting God in other people's hearts. And then that changed to I want to be a leader's leader or blah, 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 right? But it's just, it's not only about affecting the people around you, it's infecting them with that bug of they need to love people around them, nourish people around them so that they can create love or light or good vibes or happiness or call it what you want. But like there's this really beautiful scene in the third Star Wars movie, the newer one. Sorry, I'm a millennial, but like where Yoda is fighting the evil guy. I don't even know any of this stuff. And the evil guy shoots electricity at him, and Yoda just catches it and just turns it into nothing.
Wow.
Right? And I think we live in this world where everyone's like, if you throw electricity or someone throws shade at you, the first thing you do is you throw it back or you deflect it, and then it just splashes and has collateral damage. And like, what makes somebody a master of, reality, the emotions being, right, is that ability to like understand that like we live in suffering, right?
Mhm.
Life is suffering. Okay, that's why you're here, to go through this stuff so you can develop into the man that you need to be to change the world, right? But we need that. Like we need you, right? We all need each other, but like at this particular point in time, we need men who are vulnerable, which is strength. That is the strength we need.
Absolutely.
Because there's nothing wrong with I can kick your fucking ass, right? There's nothing wrong with that. There's a place for that. That's necessary, okay? However, we should be able to have a discussion. We should be able to share ideas and feelings, and the end of that should be collaboration. And the 80s, there was like cocaine and, all that vibe was really like people becoming their own and finding their own identity. And there was a lot of fighting, and it was cool to fight this guy, and I beat him in a fight, and we all smoke and all that stuff. But like now we're in a time of enlightenment where people don't need to self-actualize. We need to communally connect. That's what the world needs right now. And the way that people are going to connect truly is by saying, hey, I had this experience and I have this emotion in that experience, and you had an experience with that emotion. We're the same. What do we have to learn? And why do I feel suddenly not alone anymore? Knowing that you've been suicidal before and you have more than you need and you can't justify it, and you feel guilt and shame and you wish you could run away and escape your life. You know what I mean? Like the amount of, I'll say men, but people, the amount of people that aren't talking about what they feel is the real fucking pandemic it's the real problem. Because now you got misinformation, people can't even talk. That's why Elon is on the Twitter thing now, because he's like, fucking save us from space or whatever the whole thing is. The planet's doomed. Let's go to space. He's like, we're killing each other. We're not even, you know what I mean? So
agreed.
These conversations, and I'm afraid to say all kinds of stuff because I want people to watch this video.
And you know what? I'm so insecure about this. I can't go back and watch myself again.
That's my favorite thing to do.
I won't edit this and I won't watch it again.
Love it. I love it. I love it.
If I did, I won't do this anymore.
Right.
So I can't look back. I can't watch it again. I can just keep going. So
Well, I think you're doing great.
dude, amazing, man. So regrets, no regrets. Why does this matter? Why does this topic matter?
Well, because I think it's about like you either win or you learn, and I think it's a mindset shift, right? Because people think, oh, I either succeed or I fail. They don't realize failure is a part of success, right? You win or you learn. So like, there's stuff I regret, right? Once turned down an opportunity to be a record label famous musician guy, right? Because of the whole industry's all messed up. And the amount of times that I regretted that, dozens, right? But it's always like just a moment. And then you're like, oh yeah, right. I can build my own stuff. I don't need infrastructure to exist for me to be who I am because I can build infrastructure, right? Which is a long thing. It's a long process. Like that's why leveraging these large companies as a young person is valuable because they have millions of dollars to put into marketing and sales and networking and all that stuff. And then you're a 19-year-old or a 25-year-old talented person and they just plug you into the system and they shop you around the public eye saying and doing whatever you're going to want to say and do anyway because you're young and you don't know better.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And then they reward you. And then what happens is look at the what's happening at the end of these careers with these people, right? Talk about suicide. Talk about fucking death. Talk about addiction. Talk about problems.
Not ending well.
It doesn't end well. Right? And I only got into music to change the world and to be in control of my lifestyle. So I wasn't going to sacrifice my lifestyle for a lifestyle.
Right.
It's like a fallacy. It was like a paradox.
Yeah.
It's like, wait, I represent freedom, but I'm working 365 days a year now?
Yeah.
Doesn't make sense.
And so it's interesting because, like you say, these conversations don't happen enough, and there's a lot of value in these conversations. Not enough people are talking about living without regrets. What do we do with past regrets? How do we live our lives intentionally so we don't have regrets in the future?
Well, a regret is a good feeling to have, but not to keep. It's like you have to learn how to transmute. There's a reason you're reacting with shame or fear or regret. If there's a lesson, it's a lesson, right? Don't repeat the same pattern. Learn from your mistake. So people can move forward in their life by turning to the things they regret, looking at it. Why do I regret this? What did I do? How can I learn? And I'll do something different next time.
And I find a lot of people get stuck in the rut of life, in the mediocrity of life, right? And they don't really know what to do about it, but they hate it. And so that's why I feel a podcast like this has a big role to play for people.
It does. And, I've been in that rut and I was looking for help before. And, I go to therapy twice a week now since my kids are born. I've been going to therapy twice a week. I went today. I love it.
It's interesting you say that because, like, I've been married 14 years.
Okay.
And my marriage is better now than it ever has been. Like, first few years of marriage, I was not a great husband. I was a very selfish and miserable person because in my 20s, I knew I was wasting my 20s and I didn't know what to do about it. And so I was just a very miserable person in general. But me and my wife have gone to therapy so many times, counseling, and people think that's for the weak. It's like, no, it's the opposite. To admit that you could use some help, right? And to openly share it, like who does that?
Well, the problem is that the help's not readily available, right? Like, I'm lucky that I knew someone who knew someone who knew someone. But like, I talk all the time with my doctor And we were like, dude, why isn't this more available, this conversation? Right? Because we're living in a medical system that's run as a business for profit.
Mhm.
And the reason these conversations aren't happening is because they're not profitable, right? They're valuable, but money doesn't equal value.
So one thing, I agree with what you're saying from that side, but I think people are afraid to self-aware, look in the mirror, take stock of their lives because it's painful. It's painful to look in the mirror and say, I've effed up. I got to take ownership. I can't blame anyone else. People don't want to do that.
Okay, so this is what I think is really pivotal and important about what you're doing here is that's been true up to this point, but that's not what this conversation's about. This conversation is us paving the way for this is a new type of conversation.
Mm.
So like all these people and all their problems being afraid to face themselves and shit, that's all in the past. And we can talk about why it's like that. We can talk about that's why I always talk about the 80s. I don't think people understand humans are a result of your environment, right? Like there's an entire generation of us right now, millennials, who are super smart because we had access to information and we fucking care about the planet and society. And we're 30 now. Like get ready. You know what I mean? Thanks to, you're like my senior, right? You're my elder and you're creating the environment for us to thrive where I don't look like a hard ass and I don't look like a softie. I don't look like either because of people like you. I can come into the room and I can be who I am, where I'm doing deals with people twice my age and they respect me because of these types of things, right? So what I want to say there is like, and I'll use myself as an example. There's lots of people in my family, in my extended family, that thought it was really strange that I decided to go to therapy. But like they're like emotional retards compared to me now. And that's only after 2 years. And we're talking about people who have 50 years, 40 years, my senior. I'm like an emotional savant compared to them,
Mhm.
right? They have a very small, limited, this is my emotional paradigm, and that's what they operate in. And as someone who's developed in that area more than them, the only thing I can do is have compassion. It's like, okay, you live inside this, I live inside this.
Right.
Everything you experience is just a part of my experience. So I'm not going
Right.
to try to impose my experience on you because you can't grasp it because you didn't choose to stretch your comfort zone. And that's a you problem. You
Mhm.
don't get those lessons. You don't get the benefit of that, right? I don't care if you're 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, or 90. The people that are growing, and I know a dude who's 92, who's still learning, who's still growing, who's still
Mhm.
pushing himself, who's dealing with his granddaughter and says the wrong thing to his granddaughter and then apologizes and then explains himself, right? So it's not an age thing.
No, age does not bring maturity or wisdom, right? That comes through that comes through intentional living, that comes through personal development, that comes from pushing yourself and from being self-aware. Like it comes from all those things, not just from getting older. I've seen that so many times. Like I know a lot of older people who are very wise. I know a lot of older people who are idiots, right? You know, and a lot of people don't think they need personal development or maturity or wisdom growth because they think they've arrived and everyone else needs to change around them, not them themselves. But you know what? I've realized I'm the one that has to change.
I used to think everyone around me was just an idiot. Like I was like, why is everyone stupid? Why is everyone stupid? And why is everyone incompetent? For 10 years, that's what I thought. I'm so smart. I'm so good at stuff. I'm so easy to work with. I'm so easygoing. Why is everyone so incompetent? Wait a second. People don't want to work with me anymore, and they keep telling me that it's because I'm too hard on them. Well, I'm only hard on them because they're idiots. It's their fault that I'm hard on them, right? It's their fault that they didn't do the job right, that I'm upset. But leads up to the whole coaching thing. That's why I had adversity with coaching, was because I went through it alone. I decided to sit down and play guitar 10 hours a day for years. Nobody told me to do that. Nobody
Mhm.
encouraged me to do that.
Mhm.
I just decided I want to do this.
Yeah.
And I think that's the problem is, first off, I'm an only child. So like people with siblings, they have sibling rivalry, but they also have sibling support and sibling relationships. So now every time you try to pick up a guitar or you want to learn a new skill, you now have somebody else who's talking to you about whether or not they think that skill's valuable, right?
Mm.
I'm a big advocate that you should be spending, every human should be alone for 4 hours a day.
I love being alone, man. I
Yeah.
love it. And where I'm working now, there's people around me all day, so I crave my alone time. I
Yeah.
crave it. Yeah, I agree with you. It's very healthy for people to be alone and to be around people.
Yeah, they're both necessary, and
Yes.
it's a balancing thing, right? But people aren't alone enough. We're
I agree.
distracting ourselves. You need to lean into the discomfort, lean into the suffering.
The
Trauma doesn't
silence.
get
The
silence.
silence.
Silence, that's what it is. That's why meditating, that's why prayer. Trauma doesn't get smaller. It doesn't get healed. The rest of you gets bigger. The rest of you gets more tolerant, right? So I had traumatic things happen to me in my childhood, which I'd be happy to get into if you think that's necessary. But like, I didn't start to heal that stuff. I just started to be okay with it. And then the rest of me started to develop. And now that big piece of trauma is a small piece of who I am now.
That's
Right.
cool.
And it's the therapy and all the work that I did around that, studying shamanism, plant medicine, all this stuff that's out there, right? Spirituality, studying different religions, all these different practices through music and occultism, all that stuff. It's all about getting your being bigger, who you are, broader. You have more information, more emotions that you can experience, more subject matter that you can understand, more conversational topics that you can touch on with people to communicate ideas, larger compound ideas so you can have conversations that are faster and conceptual like this. I had a
Mm.
buddy over. He sells Lamborghinis and Ferraris and stuff, okay? He makes lots of
Wow.
money. We talked for 20 minutes about like 50 things. And I'm certain the people around us had no idea what we're talking about because they don't know what we know.
Right.
We spent years studying business. So we're using terms and concepts that these people have never been exposed to. And it's
Right.
like it feels like a different language. It's English, right?
Yeah.
But it's like if you go to a lawyer and start speaking legalese, or a surgeon and start talking about, the medical terminology, it's almost like a different language,
Mm-hmm.
right? So there's
100%.
two things. There's not enough people talking about what it means to be successful, and that is to live without regrets. And there's not enough people talking about what it means to be vulnerable, and that's to know
Mm.
thyself, which self-development and self-awareness is one of the precursors to success. I don't think people are paying attention when they see someone who's successful, like Elon, who's every time he talks about himself, he knows himself.
Yes, he's not avoiding himself. He's always looking at himself in the mirror. He wants to be the best person possible because then he can have the most successful business possible and the most impact.
Impact.
Honestly, I wrote a list of names for people to be on this podcast.
He's on it,
Elon's one of them.
obviously.
My goal, one of my goals is to get Elon on here.
Well,
And
he should be honored to be on the same podcast as me.
I agree. Absolutely.
I think I keep thinking about him all the time, right? Because he says like, "Oh, nobody understands what I'm thinking about and talking about," and I'm just like, "Well, whatever. Just haven't met me yet." But like, I think because we're in housing, we're in sustainable housing, right? We're in 3D printing homes, infrastructure, societal design, socioeconomic engineering. I feel like I'm filling out a whole niche that he's not even thinking about how to actually start a society. So like he could get people somewhere, but what I deal with is our relationships with each other and the human spirit. And the reason I was so interested in sociology and music to help a society actualize and grow consciousness was because I knew how pivotal it was that the actual vibration that people think and feel can be influenced through outside sound and create unity in a society through music. I think the fact that this isn't a normal subject that people talk about drives me crazy, by the way, right? Because you have to start learning about, how does, what is Zionism, and then why sound and all this crazy. And then you're like, oh my God, we're just dancing. Our whole life is a giant dance, and somebody's the piper.
I like that. So, Alec, I think it's clear that you make an effort to live without regrets. What does that look like for you in your life?
Fail more fun. Have more fun while you fail. Make it so. This is something. Make it part of the dance is something we say, right? I don't know if that's some sort of quote. Like if you trip or stumble, make it part of the dance, right? So it's like you should be failing more, not less. It's not no regrets because I failed less. It's no regrets because I fail so much that I can't feel anything else. Like I was a skateboarder, right? And snowboarding. When you fucking don't land a trick and your shin's bleeding, you just do the trick again. Who gives a shit that your shin's bleeding? That's punk rock. You're not bleeding enough. You should be bleeding more. It's not cool how not bleeding you are. You should be blood should be falling out of your eyes like stigmata. And then finally you did it.
Because that's how much effort it takes.
That's it. If you want, this is the thing. Desire is the key. The emotion of desire, that's why sex is so powerful. That's why dudes do crazy stuff for women. Desire, right? You want to desire your own future to be better the same way that you desired that girl that you thought of for weeks. That you and like being a musician, different relationship. I understand a lot of people, there's the one that got away. I'm lucky the one that got away, it was after I got them. You know what I mean? Like, so I know what that's like. And the thing for me, and when I use metaphors about desire and women, is like, I literally only wanted to have sex for like 15 whole years. That's all I thought about. From like 13 or 14 to like yesterday. All right. So like, that's what I'm saying. It's desire. And then people misunderstand goal setting. Your goal, you should want to fuck your goal. Just like it's your wife or your girlfriend or the girl you want or this stripper or some porn star or some whatever image is that you're attracted to of your counterpart, right? You should feel that way about your goals. When you write a goal down, it should literally make you stiff. Like, I'm so jacked up. I'm gonna do this goal. I'm gonna tear this goal up. Right?
I love that.
And when you're having sex and you fail, I have too many regrets. I jizzed too early. She didn't come. And we broke a hip. Something, right? You just go out and fuck again. You just have more sex. You don't worry about it. So you need to start comparing your life to going to the gym. Oh, I hurt myself with the injury. Work that arm out less. Wait till it heals. Get back to it later. You need to compare it. Okay, go for it. I could go on.
No, but let's talk about that because I spent all summer comparing myself to others. Okay. My business did not make it. And I'm looking at everyone on Facebook who's got all these successes.
All liars.
And it made
they're
me
all
feel
liars.
like garbage.
They're all liars.
No, but it's not about them. Talk about the person who's struggling comparing themselves to others.
Well, first off, I still do that every day. And I think so does everyone else, right?
So I've limited my social media stuff because I don't want to do it anymore.
Okay, I like that. And you're training. See, you have self-awareness and you're training yourself to be different. I respect that very much. I think, and I want to understand the question properly or the idea, but like, I think what people need in general is to understand the function of normal human response and psychology. So it's a survival tactic that you're comparing yourself to others. We evolved as mammals to have that. So you can't not have that. The trick is, what do you do with it? So like, okay, now I'm comparing myself to Alex. He's got a hot tub in his house. I don't have one, right? Fuck me, that sucks. But then it's like, what is that telling me? It's telling me I want a hot tub.
Right.
That's what it's telling me. So it's really about me. Everything that you experience or anyone experiences, it's like you are just trying to figure you out, and everyone else is like an image or a character to make you feel so that you can figure yourself out.
And it's interesting because let's talk about my hot tub. The other side of the story is I've had this hot tub for 6 weeks. I haven't been in it once. And I have to clean up from guests who piss in it and spill drinks in it. So it's ready for the next guest who's going to do the same thing. That is my experience with my hot tub.
Wow. Eh? Well, you know what? Good for you for not running.
For what?
For not running.
Oh, I have no choice. I can't run, man.
No, you have values and integrity, and like you care about your family, like you said, and that like what the world needs from you is this, right? Like there's
So,
if
Alec, let
yeah.
me tell you a story. And I haven't shared this to the detail. I've shared generally. April, before my life turned upside down. I love impact. I want to change the world. And I was praying, like as I was going to bed, I was praying, God, what can I do to impact, to have more impact? And instantly it came to mind. I can't even, like, as instant can be, came to mind No Regrets podcast. I had zero desire before that to do a podcast. Zero, none, never even considered it. I actually was turned off with the idea that me, as inadequate as I am to host a podcast, even now I feel extremely inadequate. But April, that was my prayer. That was the instant answer. So I knew I had to do it. That's it.
I've had that feeling like maybe 3-4 times in my life, and I know each one. And most recently, I had that feeling about selling socks.
Okay.
Okay, so my band was called The Way.
Okay.
And I was really big on improvised music, getting in the zone, divination, channeling God's energy into the room, all that stuff, right? We talked about 432 hertz and all these different frequency and vibration things, and we took it really seriously, right? I remember when I got the idea for the symbol of the band, it was like that. And what happened was my first band had fallen apart, and I thought, fuck, I still want to do this music thing. And then boom, I got that symbol. Well, just a couple weeks ago, I was thinking like, okay, I need something that I could point to when people ask me why I do what I do. So I was like, all right. And I'm thinking about Elon, or I'm thinking about all these things. And I'm like, I just need a company that sells junk that's called The Good Stuff. And then whenever people ask me why I do what I do, I could say it's just because I want to sell more of the good stuff. And it's like a joke. It's like a cosmic joke, but it's real, right? So then I have these Airbnb yurts on my property that people pay $200 a night to sleep in a yurt. It's like has no electricity or water. It's just a wood stove, and it's beautiful. It's from Mongolia, right? And I'm like, it's cold, and maybe people, they don't know how hot it is in those things when they're renting them, because it's minus 40, 50 sometimes out here, right? With the wind.
Right.
So I was like, why don't I sell them electric socks, like reheatable socks? You buy them in China for $15. I'll sell them probably 20, 25, $30 as an upsell on my Airbnb. So like when you book an Airbnb, you can upsell certain things, right?
Cool.
So now it'll be these heated socks. And so I just had that moment like, oh, I'm going to start a company called The Good Stuff. The next day, my buddy called me and said, I quit my job and I want to start a company with you.
Wow.
I said, okay, well, I have this idea and I think it's absurd. And I can't imagine anyone would like think selling socks is a good idea.
Right.
Right. Like he's like, I'm going to dedicate my whole life to whatever comes out of your mouth next. And I'm like, it sucks.
No pressure. No pressure.
It's like, it sucks, bro. Are you sure? So we're selling these socks now, and it's become a whole thing. There's like a team, right? I love starting companies. I don't have to do anything. That's my favorite. Time is your only asset.
Yes, it is.
I don't invest my time into anything unless I want to. And that's a privilege, and I built my life that way. And I had to suffer, and I had to learn, and I had to fail, and I'll probably fail a lot more. Like, I'm 30,
so.
and I'm trying. Yeah, me too. I hope so. I'm trying to do. I hope the failures pale in comparison to the successes, right? Because I'm on a good momentum right now, you know. So, thankfully, and not without its challenges, though. Like, and this is what people don't understand. Every single day, whether you're an entrepreneur or not, is like extremely challenging.
Dude. Yes. Yes.
Like you said, people think they made it. They got it. They did it. And now they can just wait. We didn't come here to wait. We came here to fuck around and play and break stuff and get messy and fall in love and heartbreak and have kids and build stuff. And then that's it. And then you just, what did I learn this time?
Dude, I love this. You know what's cool about this? You're my second guest, and every single podcast I do is going to be totally different. I love this. I absolutely love this. And this is what I want to dedicate my life to. It's so clear to me. There's nothing I'd rather do all day, every day, than do a podcast about regrets, no regrets, write books about no regrets, and speak on stages about no regrets. That's all I want to do the rest of my life.
I like that. It's like you're, I think it would turn a lot of people off with these language, but the idea of evangelizing is that, like, all of a sudden you have this revelation and you now have this really close relationship with the divine or God. And then you realize how beautiful and powerful that is. And that's how all human civilization advanced, by the way, right? Is people in that power doing stuff. And then you're like, well, the only thing that's keeping you from that is yourself. So let me help you break through yourself so that you can be walking in that power also.
But you know what? It's work. It's work. So it's Thursday. I don't know what time it is. My family's at home. This is my second podcast recording of the night. I haven't had supper. I came straight from work. I could be watching TV. I could have a shower. I could have supper. But no, I'm choosing to do this. And I think a lot of people don't want to. Living without regrets is hard because it requires some kind of effort. I want to lose weight. I want to have better relationships. It's all work. I want to start a business, or I want to pursue this hobby. It's work. It's hard. It's easy to not do it. It's easy to get stuck in the mundane. And so I think that's why a lot of people have a lot of regrets. And then the longer you go, the more and the bigger the regrets are. What do you think of that?
I think that the majority of the world is currently sitting in their regrets, right? Most of the world, they're in a rut right now. And as a young man, I need permission from another man. This is how you behave in the world, right? I'm recently engaged. You've been married for 14 years, right? I don't want to be a bad husband for the first 5 years, or whatever that even means, right? I'm wild. I don't know, like, don't get me started, but like, I can't imagine how much better I'll be in 10, 20 years, right? I wish I was that guy now, because the world deserves that. My kid deserves me 10 years from now, but I can't get there right now.
No,
right? So I don't.
Well,
so that's
you have
the.
to go through it, right? The process.
And that's like a future. So regret is like looking back, right? So I love that you're talking about, okay, the way you look at your history, the way you look at your past is going to determine the way you look at yourself and your future, right? But my problem isn't regret, it's fear of the future repeating the problem.
Yes.
Because I'm, as a skateboarder, right? I've landed a kickflip maybe 100 times, but how many times have I tried to do a kickflip? Thousands.
Right.
So I'm afraid to land because the odds are I'm not going to land.
Right.
But that's not what I'm not going to let that stop me from trying.
That's right.
Because the feeling you get when you land a kickflip
It's so much more. So much more.
Oh my God.
See, for me, one of my biggest fears is looking back 2 years from now and seeing I didn't improve or progress as an individual or an impact. That would be
These types of conversations is the progress.
That's right. And I know that's not a reality because I won't allow myself, but I know that's how I've been for years prior. Like
Yeah, but
years.
you might have like a dark night of the soul. That's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Like I have rough days. Like I had to raise $1 million in like 3 days 2 months ago, and I didn't sleep. And then I just told everyone on my team, like, I am sleeping for 2 days now. Don't call me, nothing, right? And I felt really bad about it. And then I also I needed to sleep, but I felt bad about it. And then I like didn't sleep well because I was like, oh, I should be working, I should be like helping other people, I should be whatever. But then when I got back to it, like on the third day, I did feel ashamed. I did like, oh wow, I should have. Who am I to deserve rest? Right? What do I deserve rest for? But it wasn't that I deserved it; it's that I needed it so that I could keep doing what I was doing.
Right.
And if you need another break, that's okay. What I'm hearing you say is, I'm so juiced that I can do this for the rest of my life. That's a pretty big indicator that you're on the right track. And I'm honored to be involved, right? I truly, because I've been hiding. That's one thing my team and I talk about is like people keep trying to pick me up and put me on the stage. And I keep hiding. I keep saying things that repel them on intentionally, right? But when you asked me to do this, I was like, this is exactly what I'm about. Because I want to go to the place where people aren't looking and turn on the light.
Wow. I like that. So, Alec, give me 2 regrets in your life. 2 of your biggest regrets.
Okay. Well, the first one that comes to mind is like when I was 19, I got a girl pregnant.
Okay.
And then we had an abortion. And I think that was for the best. But it happened because I trusted what she said. And I don't know if there was deceit involved or not, right? But I do know that that was a very like traumatic thing for me. And there was a couple of years later, I saw a guy hanging out with a little boy, and it hit me like I could have a little boy, right? Right now. Now I have a 2.5-year-old right now, and he's the shit. And I feel like it's probably good for me that I was 29 or whatever when I had him, 28. But like everything happens the way it does. So I don't really live with that regret. So I got to preface that. But that's the first thing that came to mind. Yeah. The second thing, it's something I actually do all the time. And it's, I treat people like shit all the time.
Okay.
But it's because they're already in. So I have like an employee and I think, oh, he works for me now. So he wants to be here. So I'm going to just talk to him the way I talk to myself.
Got it.
Right? I treat myself pretty poorly. but that's what
Hey,
works.
we all do.
But
The
that's what
things,
works for me.
the
Some people
things,
are motivated by pain.
it's amazing because the things we say to ourselves in our head, we would never allow someone else to say to us.
Interesting. Yeah, you're right. Well, I do say it to other people, and they let me. I don't know why, but
But
it's
would
because
you allow someone to say that to you?
no, probably
You
not. I
might.
don't. I don't even answer the phone when it rings, bro. Like nobody gets to talk to me unless I let them. Like this, I'm so grateful to have been invited to this. Honestly, this is so cool. But what I want to make clear is like my regret is ongoing, and it's that
Understand.
I'm reactionary instead of intentional, right? So like that's why meditation and prayer, because you have to take control of your faculties over and over and over again. We're in a world that's designed to make you react on a feedback loop over and over again so that you just tire yourself out and you don't do anything productive. You don't make a change and you can
Right.
just turn the gears, right?
Like, even for you to just acknowledge a current regret, like how much strength that takes, how much awareness that people don't have or are not willing to have. Like, dude, that's awesome.
But I feel bad for those people, man.
I
Like
do too.
they don't have this. We weren't taught in our society how to have these conversations. So it's there's a little bit of a tone when you're like they don't have it. It's not like they don't want it.
Right.
People want this. People want vulnerability. They want healthy conversations. They want to resolve conflict. They want that. People want resolution. The problem is it's not permeated in our
Well, I think
media.
one reason why is because for people to be vulnerable with me, I have to do it first. And
Right.
people don't want to be the first one. Because what if no one else says anything and then you just leave it out there, right? You have to be okay with leaving it out there.
Yeah. Well, you've seen my videos, right?
Yeah.
So it blows my mind. I get hundreds of views a day. And I just talk about this is what I'm doing today. That's it. And I've been doing that for over a year. And it took like 3 or 4 months before somebody messaged me and said, "Hey man, I watch all your videos. Sorry I don't comment or like them, but it's really
Well,
affecting me. It's like
that's
your videos are
amazing.
really making a difference to me." And I was like, "What the fuck?" Like I was like, "People are watching this shit?" You know what I mean? Like I could see the views, but I was like, "People like this?" Like, okay, I'll just keep doing it. And now my goal is to have a lot of silence in my videos.
Okay.
So I used to talk more. Now I have silence. Now originally I was training myself to have less silence because I'm like, oh, people don't like silence. They want to be entertained. But now it's like, wait a second. I already got your attention. So now what am I going to do?
Wow. Wow. So I got a question for you. Do people actually want to live a life without regrets? Do they actually want to?
Wow. Well, we're told that we can live a life without suffering by the mainstream media. We're shown an image of people living a life that's free of suffering. And then we're shown a car or a watch or a lottery ticket or something, right? So
Right.
it we're given that idea. Somebody's giving us the idea I can live without regrets. But
And
in traditional Aboriginal culture, indigenous culture from all over the world, it was the warrior path was you're gonna have challenges. You're gonna get scarred. That was the way of the world before.
see, I want to go back and touch on what you first said. Marketing, talking about, if you buy this truck, if you buy this watch, if you whatever, go to this restaurant, your life will be good, no regrets. But it actually compounds it because you're like, oh, that thing didn't fulfill me. And now I feel even worse, right? Because it's an illusion. You can't do nothing and live a life without regrets. And so I think all the marketing, the Facebook, the comparison, it just makes it that much worse. And people don't know what to do.
I find that interesting. I think you're right. It does make it worse because it's true that people are actually convinced, like, if they buy the truck, they'll feel better, right? Which I think is totally crazy that people would think that. But that's just
You know
because.
what? You have to almost go through it. I drove a Range Rover. I drove a beautiful Range Rover. And it was just a car. Yes, it was nice. Yes, I enjoyed it. It didn't make me feel better about myself. It didn't make me feel more fulfilled. It turned out to be just a thing. And now I drive a 2010 F-150 with almost 400,000 kilometers on it with a transmission problem, and I feel the same. But I got to experience that, and I can appreciate that. The material thing doesn't satisfy. If you're buying it to feel better, it makes you feel a lot worse. Because now you don't know why it didn't make you feel better. It was supposed to make you feel better, but it doesn't.
There is a science to the law of attraction. It's a scientific, physical law. And people misunderstand desire as an emotion, right? I started practicing manifesting and visualizing. I would go into car dealerships and I would sit in the brand new Toyota Tundra and say, this is the truck that I want, right? Recently as 6 months ago, somebody pulled into my driveway with a Toyota Tundra.
Okay.
And I said, oh, that's not your normal vehicle. They said, no, we're selling it. And we want to sell it to you for equity in a deal.
Oh, wow.
So I bought this building with none of my own money, none of my own credit, and I ended up with a truck as a result. First off, I don't even get to drive the truck yet because I lost my license a while ago. So now I have to get my license, which I'm finally motivated to do again because of it.
So Alec, be vulnerable. What happened?
With the license?
Yeah.
My uncle gave me a car that couldn't be safetied. And the day after the temporary sticker expired, I went to get Chinese food and I got pulled over.
Okay.
And he said, your temporary sticker's expired. I said, oh, I know. I'm just going on my way to get it safetied right now. And he said, well, I'm going to have to write you this ticket for $10,000 because if your sticker is expired, then your insurance isn't valid. So you're driving without insurance.
Okay.
And I said, oh, well, fuck. Can I go get my Chinese food? And he said, no. So I had to drive home, and he escorted me home.
Okay.
And then I had to walk to get the Chinese food, which was a real bummer because I was already right there with the car.
Wow. There's a lot of regrets that night.
Well, not really, because that was some good fucking Chinese food, man.
Well, at least you got it, right?
Now, what I'm saying is, like, most people, almost everyone I know, thinks that not having a license is detrimental. I spend less money paying someone to drive me around than I did on my car.
Interesting.
Like, I never have to go anywhere because I can't go anywhere unless someone takes me there.
Right.
So it's never like, hey, can you just run and do this for me? That was eliminated. And I grew up with...
The answer is no.
I grew up with, like, a lot of alcoholism and addiction in my community. And I was like driving people around late at night so that they could get home safe.
Got it.
And I hated it just so I could take care of people. And now, well, I can't drive actually now. What a blessing.
So, Alec, talk to me about your thoughts on the pain of discipline versus the pain of regret.
In a way, I still prefer the pain of regret.
Okay.
I'm an adult, but I don't feel like I'm an adult. So
I
like,
don't either.
so discipline is still very challenging for me. Like I exercise regularly, I eat very well, I intermittent fast, so I only eat for 8 hours a day. That's the only time I consume food and water. Or actually, water I'll drink, but like anything else is in an 8, and the rest of the time I'm just not putting nothing in there. Uh, so there's all these rules that I made for myself
Okay.
to have discipline.
It's interesting. I think most people, when you say discipline, they think of their physical body, when it's actually not what I mean at all.
Well, not eating is one of them.
Right.
If most people can't control their hunger,
And you know what? That's something I really struggle with, like incredibly. Especially when you're stressed out, your hormones are crazy. Like I don't crave alcohol when I'm stressed out. I crave a cake or a thing of Oreos, and that's why I
for
don't
me,
buy
it's
it.
like a bag of salt vinegar chips.
I could do the bag of chips too.
Yeah, and a family size bag.
Yep.
Because the normal size bags, you get through them too quickly. And like, if you could feel your mouth after, that was the wrong brand.
So the pain of discipline versus the pain of regret. It's hard, right? It's hard, man.
I think for me, I'm kind of in the middle between the two. I would like to be just 100% disciplined, no regrets. I think the biggest mistake I make is I tell myself I have all this time ahead of me. Because I
Yes.
actually, as a 30-year-old, I feel young.
Right.
I don't feel like, oh, I wasted my 20s. I feel like I haven't even started my 60s yet. Those are going to be my golden years. I'm going to slay. Like the amount of good that I'm going to do on this planet when I'm 60, like I'm just playing around now. You know what I
So
mean?
a couple of things. So pain of discipline versus pain of regret. I think if there's progress in your life, you won't regret that. That's good.
I think there's got to be a gray area, bro. Because like I'm playing a song on stage. Maybe I fumbled the song or the solo. Overall, it was a good performance, but I still regret that I didn't do the solo well.
But that will happen when you're trying stuff, right? When you're doing stuff. The more things you do, the more failure you will have. If you don't do anything but watch TV all day, you can't fail at all. And another thing, so you talk about how you feel like you have so much time. What would be different about your life if you had 12 months to live? What would you do different?
I don't think goddamn thing, bro.
Okay. But
I don't
that's
think
the answer,
I don't think
right?
a goddamn thing.
Like that is the right answer. You don't want to, like, if I had 2 weeks left to live, okay, well, maybe I'll quit my job and hang out with my family all day. But like, I'm doing the things I want to do. And that's what you want to be doing.
Yeah, I'm thinking about like if I had 2 weeks, I might just party. But if I had like 12 months,
Yeah.
and for sure I would just keep doing what I'm doing because everything I'm doing, I'm building up we have our family trust, we have a team, we have a 50-year business plan, we have a mission statement. Like, our company's called Home Group, and Home stands for Heaven on Mother Earth. I'm creating Heaven on Mother Earth. Why would I stop doing that?
Because the goal is so much bigger than you.
Yeah, you can't. So it's like I'm planting seeds, trees that I'll never sit under, kind of thing.
I just read that. I just heard that.
Yeah.
You know what? Right before our podcast, I was watching a live with David Meltzer.
Cool.
He just said that same thing, and I watched it for like 8 seconds.
Yeah, he's cool.
You know what? He's agreed to be on this podcast.
Oh, love it. Holy fuck, I love that. Good for you.
Agreed. In the new year, he's going to be on the podcast.
Cool. Well, I'm on the right place then. Because you know what? My team, you have no idea, bro. Like, it's so funny. My team has been killing me to get more in the public. Like, they're like, you do it on Facebook, just do it on YouTube. Just do it on something else where people can fucking watch. Because I give people a sentence and they
Yeah.
love it. Like, I have people that are like, dude, I've been thinking about that sentence you wrote for like years. And I'm like, oh, we should have a conversation. You know what I mean? Like, if you're ready to hear what I have to say, which most people aren't, right? Because they're weak and we live in a society that
Weak
encourages.
and yeah, sensitive and all that stuff.
Right. What I'm saying is like, you don't give someone who can't lift 50 pounds 200 pounds,
No.
right? I'm like 1,000 pounds. Like I will hit people in the face so that they learn the lesson, right? You're like, oh, the truth hit me in the face. I actually will hit you in the face. Not that I'm a violent guy, but if that's the thing, if you're one thing away from learning and it's a smack to the face, like there's so many stories that I won't tell just out of respect for the other people involved that I wish I could tell. Like that's why I create stories. Because I want to make a point, but I can't tell you the truth. The truth is it'll hurt people. That's why there's public image and all that nonsense, right? Like it's you don't want your kids to know what you did when you were 20 years old or whatever. Like there's a Santa's real thing. It's important for the youth of the spirit to have that illusion. But then once you're free,
yeah, no, finish.
once you're free of the illusion, right? Then it's like your whole life is different. It's like, okay, now I don't have the illusion anymore. It's just me versus the universe or myself.
It's interesting because I want my kids, when they're older, to know everything about me, good and bad, so that they can learn.
Right, but we're talking at a certain point in their development.
Understood. And I want to touch on something you were talking about. You're talking about legacy, like business legacy, your trust, the 50-year business goal. This is my legacy.
Right.
When I'm gone, I want people to be watching these videos. This is what I want.
And what if nobody does? They might not.
Well, at least one person might, I hope.
I think you're right. That's the right attitude. So like Dave Chappelle told his dad that he wanted to be a comedian. And his dad said, well, you're never going to get famous doing that shit. And he said, well, I just need to make more money than I would in any other job. And then his dad was like, you should be a comedian. And that's the key, right? Because the reason I brought that up is because legacy was a big motivator for me, right? I watched my grandmother die when I was a young teenager. And I made you think about legacy. Like, what if she's dead now? Now what? Right. So I'm thinking to myself, oh, legacy is really important. And then Alex Hormozy has this famous video with millions of views where he's saying like all the wealthy families from 10 generations ago, you don't even know who they are. And 2 generations later, there's none of the wealth exists anymore.
I follow that guy like crazy. He's also a name I want on here. Like he talks about like your mortality all the time, where he says, in 20 years, no one's going to know you ever existed. So say what you want, do what you want. Don't be scared of what people think. Like he talks about that stuff all the time.
He's at a really interesting interval in his story, right? He's just broken into becoming a very influential person.
Like over the past 6 months.
Yeah.
Like I found him 6 months ago. I have no idea how, but like he's now my favorite guy. And other people, and suddenly I hear other people talking about him when I never said his name.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Dude. So, one more question. How do you want to be remembered when you're dead and gone?
My old answer, so I have like an old answer, and then I'll make up a new answer. But my old answer is I want to be the person that instigated the spiritual era of humanity by bringing people's attention to uniformity through consciousness, through spirituality, blah, 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 right? So then I realized, holy fuck, there's a whole generation of me that think that. Okay, that's great. Second thing, I want people to be curious. I want to be a mystery. I don't want people to be like, snapshot, this is him. I want people to go through everything I've ever written, everything I've ever said, everything I've ever done, because there's a part of the story in all of it. And it's the same story, the hero's archetype. We're all living the same, we're all the protagonist of our own story at a different part of the hero's journey. So it's like, you know, I'm not attached enough to my identity right now, thankfully. And I mean, there's been a lot going on there, but I'm not attached enough to my identity right now to actually care about what you think of me. If anyone thinks of me, I hope that it leads them to think about the truth. And what I would point to, the way, right? Which is the symbol that I used was a street sign where both of the streets were the way. There's no wrong turn.
I think it's interesting because I think it's clear I don't care what people think of me at this point. And what's that?
I like you.
Yeah, man. And I appreciate that you like me. And I appreciate that I have allies. And I think to a certain extent you feel the same way. And I think that brings a lot of freedom. And you know, and it's not so much my question of you care what people think, it's that what are people going to say at your funeral?
Well, if I died tomorrow, they would say it was really hard to love him, but we loved him. And if everything goes according to plan, I'll be able to speak at my own funeral. And I can tell everyone thanks and see you next time.
Thanks for coming out.
Yeah.
Wow. Dude. We're an hour and 22 minutes in.
That's it. No big deal.
That's it, man. I got nothing else to say.
Great. Well, I bet you that in the process of you doing this, that you will get ideas. And I absolutely will let you know that it would be my pleasure to talk with you anytime. Cool. And, you know, I don't know you all that well, but I'm very grateful that you're doing this. I'm very proud of another person that's going through their challenges, and the result is they're sharing a production with other people and bringing value. And I'm honored that you asked me to be on this, and I absolutely had zero hesitation. Whereas, frankly, I'm, you know, one day I'm not going to be able to hide anymore. That day will come, and you know, maybe it's time for people like you to be known to the world, and just we're just men standing in power.
Just making our way, man.
Making our way, standing in our power, you know, doing our best for our kids.
Yeah. You know what? You love your kid more than anything on this planet, don't you? All I want to do now as a dad is hang out with my kids. That's all I want to do. Guys want to invite me out for wings and beer. No, I want to hang out with my kids.
I think about after like 6 hours, 4 hours, I'm kind of like, all right, fuck off. You know what I mean?
Well, generally when I think about hanging out with my kids, I've been away from them all day.
Yeah, no, I raised my son at home. I work from home. I'm with, his name is Lyric, right? I'm with him every day.
That is so cool.
For hours, right? I'm with him. So he's 2.5. He can read. He's doing puzzles that are for 5, 6-year-olds. We have a great time. We listen to music and dance, and we live on a farm. I have goats and chickens and a dog, and like it's a great life, right? That's like so really, cool. we everything we do is considering that he's going to be here longer than us. But yeah, I guess I get enough, and I feel really lucky and privileged that I made the choices I did to live the way that I did, and I took the sacrifices that I took, even though there's the nights of crying and the fights and the worry and the uncertainty and all that stuff comes with it. And I think people forget that. I don't know why, but like, you know, the reason we end up in these like happy, successful circumstances where we can stand in our power is because we faced reality.
And see, what's cool is you'll never look back 20 years from now and wish you spent less time with your kid. Right? Like you're knocking off a massive regret that most people never get to do, which is spend quality time.
Which is why I'm doing it. That's why I'm doing it. I listen.
Dude.
Right? Like there's billionaires that I talk to. They're telling me that they regret money.
Because they traded it.
Their kids don't even give a shit what they have to say.
No.
And they're smart. Could you imagine? I don't know. I'm not going to know what that's like. My kids are going to be fucking, you know, tuning my guitars and shit for me. And I'll tune theirs.
And you know what? I want my kids to travel the world with me.
They will. I feel like, you know, I got all kinds of stuff underway. But I feel like almost everyone that's in my life, especially now, but ever, there's a really strong role for them in what I'm doing with my teams, you know. And like I'm more interested in music than language because of the vibrational implication. But I mean, I do both. That's like I'm a poet that makes hip hop music and podcasts and pop music and rock and roll music. With the reason I did all that was to impact the listener. It wasn't about I want to be playing music. It was like I have something to say. You need to hear it. Listen to this.
I love that, man. I love that. Hey, just a quick tidbit. I play drums and guitar.
Yeah,
but
all people are creative. They should be.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love it, man. I love music. Alec, thank you for your time.
Hey, it was my pleasure, man. And thank you for the service that you're doing to men and people in general. And, you know, you might not know how you're going to turn it all around, but, you know, I've had a few ideas that I'll be giving you. And there's people making hundreds of millions of dollars today. Right?
Wow. Dude, you know what? Getting to know you has been an honor. The fact that you're an ally is an honor. And let's keep talking behind the scenes, and I'll have you on again.
Okay, well, you have a great day.
All right, man. We'll talk soon.
Bye, love you.
See ya. Love you.